Let us look at the Sudarshana Chakra Dasa, the important houses that we need to consider while predicting the possibility of marriage. Here, what you look at is the second house, the fourth house, the fifth house, the seventh and 12th houses. The second house lord here is Sun, and we know that Sun is in the 11th house, and the Sun's seventh direct aspect is on the fifth house. So it is safe. Fifth house is empty. We don't have anything over there, so it is safe for the Sun. Now let's look at the next, the fourth house lord. Fourth house lord is Venus, who is residing in the 9th house, and from Venus, the direct aspect of Venus is on the third house, which is empty. So as of now, Sun and Venus are safe. Then go to the fifth house lord. The fifth house lord is Mars. Mars is in the first house, Tanusthanamu. So from Mars, you have to look for the three aspects. The first aspect that Mars does is on the fourth house, from first house to the fourth house, which is empty. And then Mars direct aspect is on the seventh house, where Saturn and Jupiter are residing. Saturn is the natural malefic, and Jupiter is the karaka for marriage for women, is co-joined with Saturn, residing in the 7th house. And the 8th aspect is on the 8th house, which is Ketu. That means Rahu is on 2nd house and Ketu is on the 8th house. So the 5th house lord, Mars, is having direct aspect on malefic Saturn, Jupiter, the karaka for marriage for women, and another aspect is on Ketu in the 8th house. Now let's go to the 7th house. The 7th house lord is Saturn. Saturn is residing in the 7th house in its own house. Remember, wherever Saturn resides, he controls that house. Now the house being its own house, the Saturn is 100% controlling the 7th house. 7th house pertains to marriage. So anything that pertains to marriage or marital relationships, the only planet that controls on this chart is Saturn. Now let's go and look at the Saturn's aspect. Saturn's third aspect is on the 9th house. Jupiter owns the 9th house, and Jupiter is co-joined with Saturn. So the owner of the house, Jupiter, the 9th house owner, got afflicted. And in the 9th house, you see Venus. Venus is the natural karaka for marriage in general. So the Venus got afflicted. And remember, Venus is the 4th house lord. Thus, Saturn has not only controlling the 7th house, it has afflicted the Jupiter, the karaka for the marriage for women specifically, and it has afflicted Venus, the natural karaka for marriage, and also the 4th house lord. Now let's look at the Saturn's 10th aspect. The Saturn's 10th aspect is on the 4th house. Remember, Venus is the lord of the 4th house. That means Venus and Jupiter are fully afflicted by Saturn. So their attempts for the native to get married is impossible. Whatever they make any attempts, Saturn will not let it happen. So let's forget about Venus and Jupiter completely. The 12th house, the next one we consider is the 12th house. 12th house lord is Mercury. Mercury is in the 11th house, and its direct aspect is on the 5th house, which is empty. So from Sudarshana Chakra perspective, for the native to get married, for this native, the only possibility is during the second house Mahadasa, which is Sun, and the 12th house Mahadasa, which is Mercury. Now let's go and see for these two houses, what is the period and what's the other possibility for the natives to get married. Generally speaking, in Sudarshana Chakradasa Mahadasa, Chakradasa, the third cycle is the time when the native gets married. There's a high possibility for that. The reason being, the third cycle starts on or after the native turns 22 and ends before or after the native turns 36. So, for this native, the third cycle began in May 1985 and completed in May 1997. So what we have to do is, when we are trying to predict the possibility of marriage for this native, we have to look at the third cycle between 1985 and 1987 only. As said earlier, let's go back and look at the Sudarshana Chakradasa between May 1985 through May 1997. We knew that the only two Mahadasas that are cooperating the native to get married is the second house Mahadasa and the 12th house Mahadasa. And since these are the only two Mahadasas we have it, the Antardasas will also be the same. So you look at the second house Mahadasa. The second house Antardasa is between May 1986 through June 1986, and the second house Mahadasa and 12th house Antardasa is March 1987 through April 1987. That means during the second house Mahadasa, only 2 months, the possibility for the need to get married is just during these 2 months. The same way, you go to the 12th house Mahadasa, the 12th house lord is Mercury, and we found that it is safe, Mercury is cooperating for the native to get married. So in the 12th house Mahadasa, you look for the 12th house Antardasa and the second house Antardasa only, which is 12th house Mahadasa, 12th house Antardasa is May 1996 through June 1996, and the 12th house Mahadasa and second house Antardasa is between July 1996 through August 1996. So let's look at these 4 months and see in the Vimsottari Dasa, are the Mahadasa and Antardasa and Pratyantara Dasas in Vimsottari Dasa is cooperating during these 4 months for the native to get married or not. As I said, let's go to the Vimsottari Dasa. For when the second house Mahadasa is running in Sudarshana Chakra Dasa, during that period in Vimsottari Dasa, the Mahadasa is Saturn Mahadasa and the Antardasa is again Saturn Antardasa. We knew that Saturn is no way cooperating the native to get married. So the possibility of 2 months during the second house Mahadasa in Sudarshana Chakra Dasa is now nullified. There is no possibility for them, for the native to get married during that period. So go back to the Sudarshana Chakra Dasa and look at the 12th house Mahadasa, which is May 1996 through 1997. Now when you come to the Vimsottari Dasa, the Saturn Mahadasa is still running during that period, and Moon Antardasa is between 1996 January through 1997 August. So even the Saturn, we all knew that it's the lord of the 7th house. The possibility is 0 when it comes to Saturn, but Moon being the first house lord and residing in the 12th house deals with pleasures of bed, and the 12th house lord being Mercury, which has no way afflicted. So there is a high possibility for this native to get married during the Saturn Mahadasa and Moon Antardasa according to Vimsottari Dasa. Now we have, that indicates that from both Sudarshana Chakra Dasa and Vimsottari Dasa, during this period there is a high possibility for the native to get married. Now that we have confirmed using 2 Dasa systems the period when it is possible for the native to get married, we go to the transit analysis and see during that period Saturn, the 7th house lord, which is Saturn, where is the transit Saturn residing? Let's look at the transit Saturn during the third cycle of Sudarshana Chakra Dasa. Transit Saturn is somewhere on 1st May 1984. It is in Libra, the 4th house owned by Venus, And remember, the 4th house, Saturn's 10th aspect, natal Saturn's 10th aspect is on the 4th house. That means during that, in May 1984, natal Saturn is directly looking at transit Saturn in the 4th house owned by the Venus. And from there onwards, the issue of the possibility of getting married and the troubles begins. Now, when by 1996, transit Saturn will be either in the 8th house or the 9th house. If it is in the 8th house, if transit Saturn is in the 8th house during between May 1996 and May 1997, then Saturn owns its own, that's its own house. Transit Saturn is residing in the house owned by the natal Saturn. So Saturn, being the 7th house lord, became more powerful, that the possibility for the native to get married is zero. If when transit Saturn has moved from 8th house to the 9th house between 1996 and May 1997, remember, natal Saturn's 3rd aspect is on the transit Saturn, where Venus, the natural Karaka for marriage, is residing, and the 9th house lord is Jupiter, the Karaka for marriage for women, owns it, but the natal Jupiter is co-joined with natal Saturn. Thus, natal Saturn has suppressed the Jupiter's role of allowing the native to get married. Also, natal Saturn's 3rd aspect is on Venus. Thus, it further suppresses Venus, letting the native get married. And to amplify these two, transit Saturn is residing in the 9th house, co-joining with the natal Venus, making the natal Venus completely afflicted. Thus, the only possibility for the native to get married between May 1996 and May 1997, that was the only possibility based upon Sudarshana Chakra Dasa and Vimsottari Dasa. Unfortunately, when we look at the transit analysis, transit Saturn has suppressed the possibility, and to the best of my knowledge, as of year 2015, this female native was still unmarried.